It is the morning of April the 5th, 2016. I'm Dana Durnford, your host, the nuclear proctologist.org, and you can find these videos and Fukushima presentations live throughout the entire internet. We are grateful to say those words. It's so important, and today is such a big, huge, massive, incredibly, unconceivably story. We are just going to jump, dive, and swim right into this, fall overboard, whatever way it takes to get there, and we've done that. On 15,000 miles of the coastline, we've done it all. We've showed a extinction event playing out throughout the Pacific coastline of Canada for 260 days. And now scientists are starting to emit, they're trying to emit, and I'll come over and say hi to everybody in a second here, unprecedented, huge mortality event. We'll bring her over to camera number 2. Boom. Happening along the U.S. West Coast, and the die-offs are ongoing and severe. Really a big story. We had diversity, which was in a glass of seawater, you would get 1 billion creatures. And 75 to 100 million of them were the phytoplankton in a glass of water. And 1 billion creatures. Now the glass is empty. It's water, but there's nothing in it. There's no life in it. Now they're starting to admit it. They said someone pointed it out to them. Thank you, that's someone. We showed that in the expeditions for life, 5 of them along the coastline. We've never been credited. We have never been recognized in the mainstream media. No academic has ever reached out to me and said, thanks, Dana, I had no idea, we're looking at it, or anything resembling that. No government has approached me outside to arrest me when I came off the last expedition. And that's why we asked for donations. We're all donation. Everything you see here is Dana. Self-driven. There's no production crew. We can't afford stuff like that. But we've done all these expeditions from donations from all over the world. But 2 people in particular, incredibly, 2 households, incredibly, really funded the majority of it. And everybody else made sure that we had everything extra that we needed. And that was Elaine Campbell, which you know is Shawnigan, and it was Janet and Fred Saxon Peck, which you don't see comments of very often. But I can assure you these people are non-stop. Janet's Facebook page never stops. They're on a mission like me, and they found me and supported me, and I wish I could do something for them, but I can't. I don't know what to do for them, and I wish I could for these people. Outside of not let them down, outside of, people were calling me a fraud, still doing it today, daily, and said that I took the donations and I defrauded people. I took the donations and I've done 5 expeditions along the coastline of Canada. I couldn't take samples when there's nothing there. What are you going to take samples of if there's nothing there? There's 100 species throughout the coastline. So once you got out there and recognized that, then the story became documenting the extinction event along the coastline of Canada. And I mean, that's the only thing they got to come after me with, is they're accusing me of fraud, when how could I possibly be a fraud when I accomplished everything? 260 miles of the coastline, 15,000 miles. And we took donations the whole time to fund the trip the entire time. We were tied up many times because we ran out of money. But I wouldn't come home. And I posted the majority of those pictures of every single spot is almost up at the website, TheNuclearProctologist.org. I have never stopped with blogging. I'm the #1 purveyor of information on the internet when it comes to nuclear anything. Particularly Fukushima. We are the biggest producer of data. And I'm not bragging, I'm just saying. We are the #1 reliable source of data. We only talk about stuff that is already vetted. We covered 9,000 headlines before I went on the ocean. To accuse me of fraud is a nuclear PR firm tactic. How can I take samples when there's nothing there? The pictures don't show anything there. And who's going to test the samples that we would get? UVic? Woods Hole? Who are we going to trust? How are we going to do that? Where are we going to come up with the money to do something like that? We barely had enough money to make it home after 260 days on the ocean. And we funded this whole operation, and we're funding these shows through donations. And if anybody thinks that I just sit here in front of a camera and blast off a little video once in a while, and there you go, I met my obligation. No, I don't stop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Not only creating shows, but radio shows and interviews and emails, and finding the documentation, finding information, vetting it, putting it in a cohesive, palatable, digestible format for everybody. No one paid me to do all of that. I was paid to go out. I wasn't even paid that. I was helped to go out on the ocean and find out if we had an issue. We don't know what the issue was till we went out there and we discovered everything was missing on the coastline. And it's not like I don't show everybody that documentation or refer them to the documentation every single video. Let's go over and say good morning to everybody before I get wound up. But to call me a fraud, my goodness. That picture up in the corner didn't help too many people this morning with breakfast, I'm sure. Good morning, everybody. Alex, and Amthurst, Nolan, and Turian, and Shanikin, which was the one I was referring to earlier, Elaine, and Kay, and Ellie, and Bruce. Good morning, everybody. Did I miss anybody? Dalamine. And you can only start commenting once the video started, so that's everybody showing up right away. Neb Killer and Chris. I'm just looking for anybody I didn't. Pam. Hi, Pam. And Penny's out there, I know. Thank you, Penny, by the way. And Victoria. And all the people that I never mention that are constantly paying attention and understand the significance of what we're talking about and the implications and the enormity, and that we have an extinction event. Now it's admitted by scientists, like hundreds of thousands of dead birds, they all starved to death. There was no krill. We showed that on the expeditions. We talked about that constantly. We haven't stopped talking about that. That all the invertebrates are missing without the backbones. That there was no mass migratory of birds or mammals or animals, and that the birds were silent on the coastline. There was only 11 species out of 300 plus species, and that out of this 5,600 indigenous species, you were lucky to find 10 species a day. You struggle every day. It was a struggle every day to get to your spot, a struggle to wait for that low tide, a struggle to get out there and get on that beach, a struggle against wind and tide and elements, and you were running on a tiny budget. So you had to stay alive to come back with the data. We blew up on rocks and storms and hurricanes. We got caught in storm after storm. We took beatings. We've been tied up between islands for days at a time. Days where you couldn't even eat or drink anything because it was so rough to see this through. Because what I bring to the table is a huge amount of experience, a huge volume, a huge capacity to find that information and share it with you, and to talk about it and to put it in the proper context. So all these huge mass mortality events, what did they all have in common? They all starved to death. Let's come over to camera one, right there. Let's get on. Let's talk about Fukushima for a minute. Make sure everybody's on the right page. Fukushima in 2011, March 11, 2011, had a major earthquake. This was 9,000 miles per hour, traveling throughout the country and across the continents and around the world. This was felt in Florida. 30 minutes later, this was 7,000 times worse than Christchurch earthquake. This was 1,000 times worse than Haiti earthquake. The magnitude of this earthquake was such that it was producing on the ground in the zone around Tokyo and everywhere else 1 to 3 G forces. Now 1 G force, you can't stay on your feet. What is 3 going to do to you? Shortly behind that came a tsunami broken off from a shelf that was 180 miles wide. So the tsunami started out as a 180 mile wide tsunami. It hit the coastline, it killed people along 400 kilometers, that's recognized. It damaged the entire coastline. But that particular section you're looking at is around 400 kilometers. The red boxes are, the more bigger the box, the more people died, and the red numbers are corresponding numbers. The yellow numbers are the people that were missing from those areas. A lot of these numbers were 1,000, 1,700, 1,300 in yellow. That's the missing. The reds were the confirmed deads. Now, the nuclear power plants were along that same stretch of coast on the right-hand side, the top right-hand side, starting from the number 2 down. You can see in correlating to the coastline where all the people died. Now, they died because the tsunami ran through their country, yeah? Hang on. I got a little picture of that material, and we'll show you some more coming up. Tsunami came through the country. And that's what killed all these people. Tsunami came through the country and it wrecked all those plants. They didn't bother telling you about it, but it is out there. Wikipedia even had it up there for a while. 15 reactors. You have 14 reactors from another major media. You have a governor recommending 10 of them be destroyed. And the reason he was saying that, because you weren't told that, but he knew that that whole country was wrecked, and that those power plants were along the same spots where all the people died. And they died because the country was whacked with this wood chipper that went up to 10 miles inshore. Not only that, the buildings produced 30 million one-ton bags. In one-ton trucks per bag, bumper to bumper, you can wrap the planet 5 times in trucks. 30 million bags. That's only a very tiny percentage of the country they cleaned up. That was from the fallout from the melter reactors, the fallout from one. This is 100% meltdown, melt through, a melt out on the roof was the fuel pools where they stored the old reactors. And each reactor had 3,440 assemblies. Each assembly had 80 rods, and each rod was 18 pounds and 12 foot long. That's 280,000 rods, 18 pounds each. That's 5 million pounds per reactor. That's unit 1. That's all missing. And that was put on the roof every 18 months. That's missing also. It's the same thing for Unit 2. These buildings are all 3 times the size of Chernobyl. And Chernobyl didn't have reactors on the roof in fuel pools. This is Unit 3. This was considered 2 million times worse than any current reactor on the planet. By proxy, that makes it 6 million times worse than Chernobyl, which is 1/3 the size and a 30% meltdown and stopped after 10 days. These reactors didn't stop. They're cannibalizing everything. This is Unit 4. Unit 4 was one of the biggest hoaxes ever perpetrated on humanity. Unit 4, they say if that tipped over, they lost the fuel pool, it's bye-bye to Japan and evacuate North America. David Suzuki, I played the clips many times. That's gone. They actually tore the building down. There's no reactor, no fuel pool, no top of the building. This was a 10-story building. This was the hoax. They rolled out that picture to fool you and said that was number 4. They said that was what it looked like on the inside at the roof. Have a look for yourself. What do you think? These buildings all melted down. That's right throughout the coastline, all kinds of buildings. That's why you have 30 million bags already cleaned up. The death of the Pacific Ocean is because the currents are real. The ocean currents carry it right across and fill up the whole ocean in 45 days, basically. At 5 miles per hour, 24 hours a day, 45 days, it hits the coastline of North America. That's 5 years ago. By the way, these bags were only meant to last a year. That's 5 years ago. They flew in the world's biggest pump on the world's biggest plane because it looked like that on the inside? No. That was to perpetuate the hoax. They flew it in desperation to put water in. You can see it in action there. Here's another picture of it there. It's not trying to blow water through that, and it's not trying to blow water into that. That was the hoax. Let's come down and talk about the world as Dana sees it now. This is a baby bear, having a snack on a salmon. Let's talk about that for 1 second. Salmon would normally come into the coastline. Now, the coastline of British Columbia, in particular, Canada, with 26,000 islands, has a mountain range along the coastline. It's full of glacier ice that took 1,000 to 5,000 to 50,000 years to form and compress and be buried underneath all the other stuff that falls out of the sky and the cold conditions. In the mountains, all year long throughout British Columbia, glacier ice is missing. Now what that would do is that would regulate the temperatures in the rivers where these bears are to. It would regulate the height of the river all summer long, even in droughts, especially in droughts, because more water would run down from the mountains. The salmon could get up the river. Now all the insects and the salmons and the marines and the fishies and the shoreline animals that are dependent upon that ecosystem are dependent upon the cold water coming from the glaciers in the mountains. They are missing from the British Columbia mountains from the radioactive fallout. It will take 1,000 to 5,000 years. But what happened was the fish never made it up the river. The insects in the river weren't regulated by the cold water coming down. They disappeared. The spawn couldn't spawn because the temperature was too warm because the cold water wasn't coming down. And then the coastline of Canada wasn't regulated because the cold water didn't come down and regulate the coastal waters. James Hansen, former head of the NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies, he comes across as a cute little bear. He comes across as a harmless animal out in the woods in one sense, where they're really cute looking, right? But Hansen has a lot hid away behind his salvos of misery. And if you don't understand that, James Hansen talking about 3 Mile Island. Anytime you're ready, Dana.
There are multiple reasons, I think, why there's opposition to nuclear power plants. Nuclear energy is harder for people to understand, the idea of radiation. I mean, radiation is natural. The Earth is bombarded by radiation all the time. So the radiation that was released, for example, in 3 Mile Island, that exposed the accident at 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania, exposed residents nearby to radiation, which is equivalent to the amount of radiation that you get by...
I screwed that up, didn't I? It's crude. Let's play that one more time because I smurfed it up.
There are multiple reasons and back to the amount of radiation that you get by flying in a commercial aircraft across the continent and back.
Whack job. So he started it off by saying there's natural radiation everywhere you go, then jumped with 3 Mile Island at the same time, and now said a nuclear reactor that the people got the same as flying across the country. This is the guy who was in charge of NASA, Goddard's institution or center. It's a blatant, well-known lie that nuclear apologists use constantly. When you ingest a man-made particle, it sequesters in your organs, in your muscles, in your bones. Your body attacks it relentlessly. That doesn't happen when you get on an airplane. That doesn't happen if you got potassium-40. Potassium-40, your body equalizes it. Getting on an airplane is insignificant to man-made radiation. Just a single atom. I can put 2 million atoms on the head of a needle and I can't see it. Does that mean that it's harmless? Does that mean it's not there? Does that mean that that's... See, we have laws to keep the stuff on the site because we recognize that. We have Dr. Raymond Gilmeddy's studies showing that. The smallest doses to the dogs, all the dogs died for 35 years. They never tried to cure the dogs a single time. I'll show you that later. But that's such an important one. Now, back to talking about Hansen for a second. He's a typical apologist, and that's what's hid away under Hansen's demeanor, under that calm and cool and collect demeanor you just saw, is this raging maniac who outrageously lies and manipulates everybody because he worked for NASA. So now he has credentials, street creds, right? Starvation suspected and mass die-off of Alaskan seabirds. So when they came ashore, these birds, when they normally come ashore, now I've done the whole coastline, so normally when you come ashore, the birds can feast on that, or feast on something like that, or feast on that, or feast on this, or feast on that, you know. There's so much food there that they can eat to their heart's content. No matter where they're to, they can eat to their complete heart's content. If you look at what's there now, that's why the birds starved to death. Like I went ashore and took the pictures from the same spot. We covered 15,000 miles of the coastline in a little dinky. And think about the Smithsonian and National Geographic's produced a study, talked about a study last year in 2015 of how the urchins were missing in 200 miles of coastline in a fifth spot in Baja, California. Therefore, there was an extinction event. We covered the entire coastline, one end right to the other end, verbatim, for 260 days, 15,000 miles in a little dinky. And the comparison pictures are that to the same spot as what it is now. It's naked now when normally every millimeter was jostling and full of life. Every millimeter. 70 odd IDs per square millimeter was common in that one spot in Louise Narrows and the Haida-Gwais. And so the birds that we're talking about on the beach, when they came ashore, there was nothing to eat. When they came ashore, there was nothing to feed on. When they went up into the woods, what did they find? Not thousands of insects, but nothing there. When they went into the lakes inland, what did they find? They found nothing. Why? Because it was all gone. And the implications of that, and when nobody talks about it, only the quacks from the nuclear apologist, everything else is dying. They starved to death. The whales we found throughout the coastline in 2015 all starved to death. Their blubber went from 12 inches down to 4 inches. They were dead. That's when we found them. Fish are mutating throughout the world. But the birds would normally fly along the entire coastline looking for food, and they would find all that species I was showing you earlier, the pre-Fukushima pictures. Post-Fukushima pictures, there's nothing there. So they're dying in mass. Because when they come ashore, there's nothing to eat, there's nothing out in the ocean, there's nothing in the woods, there's nothing inland. We've seen up 8,000 of them, just a small lake in Alaska in the last couple of weeks, dead, starved to death. Everything we see, starved to death. Everything we're looking at has starved to death or is mutated. These are some wicked mutations that showed up recently. This is a shark. I've never seen sharks that look like that. Here's another shark, a mutation with legs. Shark with legs. That was, can't remember where that one was told. Now this next picture I'm going to show you is really hard to look at. But I have to show it because I want you to understand something. So if you haven't got a strong stomach, don't look at the picture. It's a bird with his head inside the eyeball of a sea lion. Okay, the picture's coming up right now. And so birds, I just put in that picture there for a quick second. I'm going to click off it in a few seconds. But I wanted to put that image there. I want people to really appreciate. The birds got no choice. They got nowhere to go. There's nothing on the shoreline. That picture is gone for anybody that's waiting. There's nothing there for the birds to eat. That's what the birds are telling you. Anyway, that's why they're all disappeared. That's why they all died. When they came ashore, when they were at the ocean, there was no sardines, there was no herring, there was no anchovies, there was no squid, there was no krill, there was no invertebrates without the backbones, the thousands and thousands. And now, so the species, the pictures I showed you that we took along the coastline, the 4 million other species that were looking for a spot to settle there but couldn't, when it finally become vacant, these are from the same spot, pre-Fukushima, post-Fukushima you're looking at now, the 4 million other species didn't receive the coastline. That's why all the birds died along the coastline. That's why we see that mass mortality along that coastline, see? Including the whales, they got nothing to eat either. And that's why we see these mutations. And so let's move on. See, Fukushima, if you could see a meteorite coming at you, what would happen on this planet? We would all get in second gear and go crazy trying to solve it. Throughout the world, every institution, every university would try to solve riddles of how we're going to deal with this thing that is coming for us. And we had that happening on our planet slowly now because of nuclear. because of Fukushima. The victims understand it. They're so desperate this day and age that they want to put nuclear waste now right alongside one of the biggest drinking water for 50 million people. It's because they know it's going to leach out. They know it's going to hemorrhage out. They know it's going to fall people. It's going to kill people constantly. That is what nuclear does. That's why we have terrorist laws. That's why we have nuclear waste sites. That's why nuclear, we give them so much money. That's why we literally burn money on these people. We just break the bank all the time, right? And like, we don't see the world for what it really is, do we? Do we really appreciate the world for what it's really? It's this wonderment. It's this incredible diversity. No, we sit here and we ignore it, and we live our life in our self-centered, egotistic world, hoping that the people that we entrusted with the responsibilities to do the moral and ethical things, like the United Nations and the World Health Organizations and your local governments and your institutions and your universities and your academics, are all just disgusting PR firms, are pathetic, easily traceable. Go look at any of them. You can easily trace every one of them to PR firms. Every one of them. In your media. Every one of them in your political arena. Every one of them in your universities and your institutions and your academics and your think tanks and your mass media. Every one of them are firmly entrenched with PR firms that are not there to repair someone who was attacked or vilified and unfairly. You won't see PR firms coming out to defend me. You'll see them coming out to defend against me, to defend against the documentation and the data by smearing people like me and vilifying people like me and tormenting and demonizing and vilifying people, particularly like me, that they've already done it to me repeatedly, to the point where you gotta think about, they have no real targets. And I'm a pretty easy target. I don't have the donation platform coming in. I can't defend myself. I do, and I will. But I don't have the venue that they're afraid of. I don't have a venue I also don't have the venue or the equipment necessary to be a really big stick for them. But yet we continue to try, we continue to push, we continue to impress upon everybody the urgency of what we talk about. Australia and India. Like Australia, you get $245 million for a nuclear dump. Yeah? And it'll cost $145 million to build it. And then the rest of it will get stolen by a handful of corporations. And then Australia, until the end of time, starting right away, will be stuck with this mess and have to fund it and finance it and deal with it, because if not, they're going to lose their country. They can't turn their back on it. They can't walk away from it. They can't say, oh, business deal gone bad. The taxpayers, the government itself, and you don't even have the technology to deal with it if it goes wrong. Why would you put that in your country? Why would you do that? Because of the handful of PR firms controlling your institutions, your medias, your universities, and your political arena. Like, I need to raise enough $7,000 just for a Skype machine to do it properly, so I can do interviews and own the copyright to that and be able to utilize that to bludgeon the opposition properly with real data, real information. I really do need that, see? That's how I see it. I need real lights, and they're $1,500 to $5,000 a pop to do it properly, to have that venue, to be able to come out. I get that, see? But I don't have that, so I haywire everything and I do it anyway. But you'd be shocked and surprised at the far-reaching that we can have with just what we can produce. The fact that we won't give up, the fact that we can't give up, the fact that we went out and showed that it was truly a horrific horror show, and now the fruits of the nuclear industry have showed themselves where mass die-off after mass die-off after mass die-off, particularly for the last 3 years, has heightened awareness around this planet that something is amiss. And when all they can come up with, it could be global warming, or it could be a warm blob in the ocean, or Probably, red tide. I've done every industry on both oceans in Canada, the Atlantic and the Pacific. I had 30,000 hooks to close the fishery down. And there was still a fish on every hook at that time. They let in thousands of international fleets come in and rape the coastline, but they won't let the indigenous people go out and fish the coastline. That's what they've done. That's what they're continuing to do and still doing. I'm not somebody that's random. We covered 9,000 headlines before I went on the ocean. We've done 260 days. When I tell you I'm trying to raise money, that I'm desperate to raise enough money to go to battle against these people because I feel that I am the only one out there in the capacity and the tenacity to do what I say I'm going to do, because I've always done what I say I'm going to do. I've always produced what except I wasn't able to get samples when I went on the ocean because there was no samples there. What could be more so hard to understand about that in the pictures? When you look at the pictures, well, he couldn't get samples of the 5,600 species if they're not there. No, he didn't follow through. He didn't get his samples. We followed through. We kept going. We've done 260 days in the entire coastline, documented it with 2,000 pictures a day with the GPSs. In the hopes that when it was finally done, we would have a panoramic picture of the coastline. And it is staggering. And has driven me to do what I do right now today. And has driven the system to demonize me and vilify me and have me arrested and bankrupt me and force my supporters to have to support me through all the agony that's still coming at me now and all the misery they still pile on top of me. But I didn't do nothing wrong. I don't tell lies. I'm not wrong about what I'm talking about. I'm not making a mistake. I'm authentic. I'm authoritative. I'm coercive. And the stuff I give you is digestible and presentable. Just there for the picture of the bird with his head in the sea lion's eyeball. Because that is a picture you won't see very often, I can assure you, or any more probably coming up. Before the end of the year, there will be no whales left in the Pacific Ocean along Canadian coastline. There's no oxygen. There's no snow. There's no ice in the mountains. It's gone. There's no insects in the forest. There was no spiders in the forest. There was no birds in the forest. Right throughout the whole coastline, the tidal pool, the very nursery of the ocean. Let's get past that. Dana Durnford you can check out my YouTube videos, Beautiful Girl by Dana, and you'll see a link to my PayPal, so you can donate directly without making a mistake. Dana Durnford at Hotmail. Dana Durnford at hotmail.com. You can do it that way. Or you can go to the Nuclear Proctologist. And if I don't ask for money, I don't raise money. If I don't beg for money, I don't raise anything. It's only when every single time that I beg for it, I'll get a few donations. But if I don't ask and beg for it, I won't get nothing. And if I don't got nothing, I can't do anything. And if I can't get any better and I can't succeed, then we're in a lot of trouble as far as I'm concerned. Because ultimately, as this story comes out, I'm going to be forced, and willingly forced, to try to console people. If that's a way to think about it, or an abstract way of looking at it. I don't see this as a fight and then we won the fight. I see this as a never-ending fight till the day I died. That's what I see as a fight to help people to come to terms with it, to help people understand it, to help people comprehend it, to help people appreciate what we have left. We got to covet and salvage. We got to make it. We got to have a resistance out there. We got to have there has always got to be resistance. Right now, there's 2,000 PR firms ready to destroy me, ready to annoy, and hard at it all the time. They can't get rid of me because I'm not a bad person, because I don't lie, because I don't manipulate, because I don't deceive, because I'm not some scam artist or some e-bagger, as people are claiming. And that there's 90 people with the same platform as me with donate buttons. And that without the donations, how can any organization exist? Let's keep going because I just overdone it, I'm sure. It's emblematic of how desperate I am to get the equipment I need to do the things I have to get done, because nobody else will do it. There's nobody else out there able to handle it anyway. That's stepping forth, that we recognize, and that is willing to put the time and energy and effort into it, and that is able to make it happen. They're really not. I'll be heading back out on the ocean on this weekend, hopefully, if everything goes good, for a couple of days and do a bird count and an insect count. We're getting spring conditions, summer conditions along the coastline all this week coming up, starting tomorrow. Australian government gives nod. Once again, like I told you, Australia will be stuck with it for the end of the life. All the money will be gone in the first year that is open. Fukushima is right on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. The jet streams are real. All the rain that fell out of the sky and continues to fall out of the sky is highly radioactive materials. Radiation takes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, many years to show up and get diagnosis of cancer. There's 1,800 diseases will show up before that. Diabetes is manifestation of radiation sickness. Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary glands, liver. You got adrenaline glands. You got your thyroid glands. Not only affected by iodine, it's affected by cesium. These are only tracers, though. Loose talks help our enemies. A little bit lighthearted coming up here. This was the Manhattan Project, I believe. And the women were brutally treated during the Manhattan Project. They weren't even told what they were working on. Most of them thought they were working on something for some factory or company. Had no idea it had anything to do with a nuclear bomb. This is the Pacific Ocean now. It's gone. This is admitted now by scientists. Think about James Hansen, A Matter of Life and Death. He tells you that 3 Mile Island got the same dose as flying on an airplane. This is pure evil. He knows better. He's not stupid. He's not naive. He's not gullible. He's not misinformed. He's outrageously telling you a lie, and he's quoted constantly, and he's putting out articles constantly to manipulate you, to deceive you, to trick you and to fool you, and to get you to not understand what nuclear is all about. He propagates nuclear. He's fucking evil in every sense of that word. Excuse the language. Sue me. There's James Hansen every time he hears about a new nuclear project coming up. Yeah? It's the devil himself. He knows different. He's telling you it's harmless. He knows different. Oh, why we got terrorist laws there, James? No one's going to ask him that question. No one's allowed to ask that question. Civilization has been around for a long time. For a very long time. Radiation flows around the planet. The air currents flow around the planet in 40 days. The radiation is so tiny. It's on the atomic scale, beyond comprehension of the average person. But the fact is, when it sequesters in your bodies, your organs or your muscles or your bones, your body attacks it for decades with white blood cells, displacing oxygen in your body the entire time. So the minute you got it in you, your body's under attack. It attacks itself relentlessly. It's pulsing out at the same time in your body and is snapping apart the DNA and the chromosome. Every second, for 60 seconds a minute, 1,440 minutes a day, for decades, till it builds a tumor around it. You call it a tumor, rather. It builds the sarcophagus around it, as you know, as a hard tumor. Crows are scavengers. They'll be one of the last birds. Seagulls, most of the birds were wiped out on the coastline, period. 11 species left on the coastline, and then over 12,000 visible species on the coastline, less than 100 for marine life. And then all the whales and animals and mammals that die on the coastline all died of starvation. Not pathogens, not dioxins, not lead, not injuries, but of starvation. Believe me, they're trying to kill us all. They know what they're doing. They've been telling you for 70 years like a banana. Dude, they really are trying to kill you all. Of course, that is why they gave us a roof over our head and feed us. Tell us to shut up and fix it. Conspiracy theorists. That's what we are no different than that. That's us in our homes, in our skyscrapers. That's all we are. We're no different. Everything is GMO and forced vaccination. You're in debt the day you're born for the wars that you never even seen. You're being drugged with fluoride. You're printing money from a private institution. The Federal Reserve is a private institution. All I got to do is go bankrupt and open up another federal private institution. They're called the Federal Reserve is a private corporations in the yellow pages alongside the Federal Express. You don't see nuclear when you look at Japan because you're showed this misery all the time. But think about how many telephone poles are left there. That means any nuclear power plant where that happened couldn't get power. That meant it melted down within 11 hours. It loses an inch a minute, rather. But old James Hansen, the disgusting, demented, twisted, sick, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He knows the difference in the lie he tells. He knows that the people around 3 Mile Island got a killer dose, and he told them it was like a flight on an airplane. He does that because the nuclear industry is butthurt. That's right. Nuclear power is a waste, and no one wants such a legacy. Shut down all nuclear power plants immediately. Well, think about that tsunami. They could do that, but it never hurt the power plants. Like, that's after. But look at it before. Here's a before picture. Here's an after picture. Look, see the ocean down in the bottom left-hand corner? Think about how the ocean carries it right across in 45 days, how rain picks it up and brings it in the coastline, it washes down to the coastline from the mountains, it kills all the insects, it melts all the glaciers, it wipes out the marine life along the coastline. But it has to come past you to get to the mountain. It has to come past you to wash back down again. There you go, the best picture I've seen this year. She's another one of those people, keep calm and build a nuclear bomb type people. So who cares about North Korea? North Korea sets off a bomb, everybody on the planet will blow them up to one time. Russia, China, Japan, everybody else out there, Israel, America. This is what nuclear power is. This is all nuclear power is. Nuclear power, there's nothing clean, nothing green, nothing too cheap to meter about it, and never will be. Not only that, it boils 1 million gallons of water every minute of its existence. Every minute of its existence. The politologists got to come out and say, hey, we can run it on bananas. Tim Warsaw says Fukushima was about 75 million bananas. You got any idea how demented and twisted and out of touch with reality? But he's educated. He knows better. He knows it's got nothing to do with potassium-40. He knows potassium-40 is homeostasis, and that everything on the body regulates it. You can't get any more potassium-40 in your body. What do you need to know besides that? How can you not understand that? How can you not wrap your mind around that? How can you not understand every time the media tells you, and they do every single time they talk about any accident, it's like, oh, you get no more than you would from a banana or a potato chip or walking in the sunshine or getting on a fucking airplane. At some point, they're going to have to tell the truth. They can't keep telling the lie forever. And they can't tell the truth because their own family's going to turn on them. Their own loved ones are going to turn on them. Their own students are going to turn on them. They haven't corrupted yet. That everybody in the community is going to turn against them. Including the media. Including the people that perpetrated the lie. The educated people like James Hansen and everybody else, Woods Hole and the University of Victoria, particularly in British Columbia, Canada, go ahead and eat the fish. It's like potassium-40. It's like rubidium. It's like the natural stuff that everything on the planet is already acclimated to through genetic superior selection and is already full of that. We exist because we incorporate it into us. Man-made stuff can't be incorporated into you. So write Tim Warsaw a letter and call him a pig. Call him a lying sack of shit and say, you got an education, you know better. And I disrespect you for that. Anything else you say is up to you. That's what I'm suggesting you do with these people. Over and over and over. Every day, send them a letter and say, I disrespect you for lying about potassium-40. Turns out it's got nothing to do with a reactor, and with your education, you know better. So that means you're a murderer and a liar and a disgusting parasite. And anybody that hosts you or your material needs to be fucking driven out of the system. That's what's going to happen, even without me. Dead of the Pacific is not a joke, We're winding down. We never covered a lot today, did we? Me begging for money. because I'm stuck doing what I'm doing until I can raise enough money to do what I need to do, to build the operation that I got to build, to put together the people and the network and the facility and everything that goes with that, the responsibility, and then the lawsuits and the criminal harassment and the attacks and the death threats that go with that. We have to build something that is formidable. We have to build up an organization. We have to support an organization that is willing to bring the fight to them, to bring the knowledge to everybody else that is capable of doing that. Who's going to do it? Who's going to physically do that job? I know people out there that are capable of it. But who's going to get up there and do it? Who's doing the job? Who constantly does the job? Who's willing to do the job? Who's the right person for the job is the question we got to ask ourselves. If you think it's me, then I think you're right. And I think you should do everything in your power to put together communities, to raise money, to get out into the community and talk about it and make this happen. I will never be able to do anything by myself. It will never happen. I'll only do it because the world wakes up and understands that the truth is more powerful and more worthy of than anything else. At that point, we'll get our way, but will it be too late? Will it matter? We don't know, but we will try. Let's wind it down. Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, that I am meek and gentle with thy butchers. It's the legacy is disgusting. The people that are perpetrating upon us are only supported by media and universities with zero science, but no one's allowed to have a debate. No one's allowed to have a counter-narrative. No one's allowed to have another narrative. Anybody do is vilified and demonized like me. Yeah, I'm feeling the heat sometimes. Does that mean I'm going to give it up? Does that mean I gave it up? Does that mean I walked away? Or does it mean that I got stronger and better and more determined every single time? Every time I run into an adversary, what do? I butt heads. I bang chest against it. I don't back down. I don't move out of the way. I don't fucking lie down for nothing out there anymore. I seen the carnage of the coastline for 260 days. Here's your history, a military history, of people who know nothing on any war, who see no way forward, only misery and agony and refugees and orphans. That's not me. I don't see that world. I see this world. I know what it's doing. I know what it's done. I know its history. I know how they got away with it. I know why they do it. And I ain't going to take that sucker. I ain't going to take that friggin' banana. I ain't going to bow down and pretend that this never happened. You ain't going to intimidate me. You ain't going to threaten me. I live in peace and solitude in my world. I wake up every morning and I look at you quacks and I consider that at some point, and that point is now, right now, this year, you're going to meet your match. I can assure you. That's what you are. That's what a nuclear scientist is like. He goes duck hunting and they want to shoot the cats flying by because they can't tell the difference. See? Does that make any sense? English quack, German quack, French nuclear scientist quack, Italian nuclear scientist is a quack, a Dutch nuclear scientist, a nuclear purveyor of nonsense is a quack. Same thing with the Danish and the Spanish. The quack quack. He spent the summer on a power plant cooling pond. Look at him, look how he looks healthy and he looks cool and the other ones looks all raggedy and everything else. See what they done to you there? Quack quack. Quack quack. Don't worry about nuclear radiation. That's the real danger. Don't worry about nuclear radiation. This is the real danger. The real danger is the people 100% that say stuff like that to you, that even imply stuff like that to you. You tell them shut their fucking mouth. You said Dana told them so. Dana told you to say it. You shut your pie hole, mouthpiece, moron. And anybody says anything back to you, you tell them to shut their mouthpiece. Once you attack the guy who's a none but a lying sack of shit. Once you get in their faces for a change instead of attacking the people that only tell the truth. The people that show the documentation. The people that done the actual work. The people that done the whole coastline. The entire coastline. Which is Dana and the Hounds of Fukushima. I don't do nothing without the hounds. Literally and figuratively. And I'm not a leader of the hounds. I'm Dana and the Hounds of Fukushima. I done it with the Hounds. The Hounds are all individual people with their own mind and their own soul and their own heart and their own thoughts. And we all think that this is an outrageous perpetration upon the human and the other 8 million other species on the planet. And we demand a response. We are not going to sit idle and take it lying down anymore. You kill the Pacific, you kill all the species on the coastline of British Columbia. The only species left intact are the human species. You demonized me, vilified me, attacked me. I'm not going away. I'm having all of you in the courtroom at some point. I will get my way. I will get the equipment I need. I will tell the world what you're doing and what you've done. I will end the nuclear renaissance that is projected to be coming this time. It's not happening. It's done. And that peace is coming. War can't last forever. It's already seen its day. You can't keep creating millions of refugees for 10,000 Taliban all over the world. They bleed and die the same way as me and you if you get shot, yet they never die and they never bleed. And so, Afghanistan, millions dead, millions missing, millions of orphans. Iraq, the same thing. Libya, the same thing. Syria, every building destroyed. For what? The same 10,000 people. We should take the 10,000 that are doing it to us and get rid of them. That's what we're going to be doing, whether I'm here or not. That's what's happening. That's what's coming down the pipe before we get rid of by the nuclear. They're killing everything on the planet, for goodness sakes. Let's come over to camera 2. They're killing us. I'm not going to sit and take it from anybody. I'm not going to lie down and pretend that it never happened. I'm not going to look back and say I didn't try everything. I didn't try every trick in a book that I can come up with to get the word out and to try to rally people and try to come to terms with what they got done to us. We're missing the microscopic in the ocean. If that's not the death of the fucking planet, I don't know what is. Hugs for everybody. I'm Thirst. Let's bring up the screen so everybody can see me, I guess. See each other, hopefully. Ellie, Amthurst, Pam. That's the wrong one. Candace. Hugs for everybody. Illusion is over. Bruce. Shanikin. Thank you, everyone. Andrea's. Strain. And Bruce. I'm just Clint. And Patrick, Richie, Terry Ann, and Kay. And I'm just trying to say good night, good day to everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow. It was a good stream today. We brought in a lot of weird pictures. And it's Nova. I know Albert and Alex is out there and everybody else I did miss. Delamine, Nep Killer. Hugs for you, folks. You know, together we are strong. Divided, we all hang separately. Yeah? And so together we are a force to be reckoned with. And I can assure you, with the way we do these presentations, with the documentation, with everything else that we're doing, let's make things very clear. We are not going away. We're here for the push. We're here for the pull. We're here to hold you accountable. We're here to seek justice. We're here to put you in the courts. We're here to put you on trial. We're here to put you in The Hague. We're here to deal with the nuclear industry. It's on our watch, and we'll be dealing with it the best we can to pass that watch on to the next one if we got to. But we will do our share. We will set the stage for the prosecution and the destruction of that whole entire nuclear cartel. I'm Dana Durnford, NuclearProctologist. We'll put out a higher quality stream up. That Beautiful Girl by Dana. Hugs for everybody. We'll see you on the...